Welcome back, Blockchain of Raw, where we turn market noise into meaningful insight. Today's episode starts with energy, because what just dropped could change everything you think you know about Ripple XRP and the future of money itself. Two major updates have landed almost simultaneously, and while most of the world still scrolls past without a clue, you and I are paying attention. That difference, awareness, is what separates future wealth builders from the rest. Now, imagine this. 99% of people on the planet still have no idea what's happening in the background of the financial system. They don't see the pipelines being built, the partnerships being formed, or the digital assets quietly threading themselves through the gears of global payments. That's why the early adopters, people who learn before the headlines catch up, will likely become the new 1%. Before we dive deep, take a moment to ground yourself. Ask, what does it really mean to witness a financial revolution in real time? Because that's exactly where we stand. If you've been following Ripple and XRP for a while, you already know this isn't about hype. It's about infrastructure, stability, and the transfer of value at speeds our current system can't match. As I always say, this isn't financial advice. Crypto is volatile. Markets swing like pendulums, but education is your best defense, and that's what we do here. So, buckle in. Stay open-minded, and let's talk about why the next chapter for XRP could redefine how money moves across borders, banks, and beyond. Two stories are on the radar today. One has been circulating in whispers, the other barely anyone's seen yet, but together, they paint a powerful picture of what's unfolding. You'll see how legacy banking giants are now merging hands with blockchain innovators and how global payment players are quietly switching lanes away from the old, sluggish, Swift network. Think of this episode as a bridge between the unseen and the undeniable. We'll trace the connections, break down what's confirmed, and explore what it all could mean for us, the early believers. Because every big movement starts small, and every revolution begins with information that most people ignore. So, here's the deal. Get comfortable. Maybe grab your coffee or your notebook, because by the time we're done, you're going to see exactly why these recent moves could mark the acceleration point we've all been waiting for. The question isn't if the transformation is coming, it's how soon and how prepared we are when it hits. Welcome again to Journey to XRP. Let's break this down step by step. The first story comes from the heart of the traditional finance world, a world that for decades looked down on digital assets as a passing trend. But now that same world is quietly pivoting. A major player from the crypto exchange space recently confirmed a new collaboration with one of the biggest names in global banking. The statement was simple, yet powerful. Crypto and stablecoins are not the future. They are the upgrade to the financial system. And that right there captures the shift that's been happening behind closed doors. The partnership focuses on improving the utility of stablecoins and digital assets for institutional clients. In plain language, that means the world's largest money movers are no longer experimenting, they're implementing. And if you trace the connections, something fascinating emerges. This particular bank has already had deep ties to a digital asset custody firm that was acquired by Ripple not long ago. That acquisition, valued at $250 million, wasn't random. It was strategic. It was about positioning Ripple in the XRP ledger right in the center of the institutional finance world. So when you hear about new partnerships forming between banks and crypto platforms today, it's not just noise. It's a continuation of a story that started years ago. A slow build of digital rails that can carry the world's money faster, cheaper, and more transparently. The dots are connecting one by one, and if you stand far enough back, the picture is impossible to ignore. And that's just the first development. The second comes from another global giant, one that has handled international remittances for generations. A new pilot program was announced, testing stablecoin settlement rails designed to cut costs, speed up transfers, and reduce reliance on the outdated Swift network. Think about that for a moment. A legacy payments titan, one that built its empire on cross-border transactions, is now actively exploring blockchain-based solutions. The company's CEO even went on record to say that stablecoins represent an opportunity, not a threat. That single line speaks volumes. It's a clear signal that traditional finance no longer sees crypto as a rival. It sees it as an upgrade. And when you trace this company's past partnerships, it becomes even more interesting because this isn't their first dance with Ripple. In fact, for nearly 5 years, pilot programs have quietly tested XRP-powered cross-border payments behind the scenes. When you put these two stories side by side, major banks collaborating on stablecoin adoption and long-standing payment providers testing blockchain rails, it becomes clear that the future financial infrastructure isn't being imagined anymore. It's being built brick by brick, transaction by transaction. And yet only a tiny fraction of investors even know it's happening. That's why early awareness is powerful. Because while most people are waiting for prices to move before they care, the real action is happening underneath the surface in boardrooms, partnerships, and test networks that will soon define the next era of money. So the next time someone tells you that XRP is just another token, remind them that the same institutions that once dismissed it are now building systems that look suspiciously like the vision Ripple outlined years ago. Coincidence? Hardly. It's strategy. And we're watching it unfold in real time. Now, let's zoom into the second layer of this unfolding story, the part that connects Ripple's long-term vision directly to real-world payment corridors. The moment you hear that a company like Western Union is piloting blockchain settlement rails, it should set off alarm bells. The good kind. This isn't a startup testing a theory, it's a global remittance powerhouse exploring faster, cheaper cross-border transfers using stablecoins and digital assets. And here's what most people miss. This is not their first time experimenting with Ripple's technology. Western Union has been quietly working with Ripple for years. As far back as 2018 and 2019 pilot projects were already running to test the efficiency of XRP in live corridors. Articles from 2021 and 2022 confirmed that the partnership wasn't just theoretical. The company's own leadership acknowledged exploring Ripple's blockchain and even the XRP token for international payments. That's not rumor, that's fact. Recorded and public, what this means is that the infrastructure for mass adoption has been quietly maturing behind the scenes. While the average retail investor was distracted by market noise, Ripple and its partners have been building relationships with the kinds of institutions that move billions of dollars every single day. Western Union, International Money Express, and other financial service providers have already tested the waters and they know it works. The exciting part, these pilots are happening now. At the same time, the global economy is being reshaped by regulation, digitization, and tokenization. The SWIFT network, once the undisputed king of international money transfers, is showing its age. Delays, high fees, and limited interoperability make it a relic of a slower era. As stablecoin settlement networks rise, SWIFT's monopoly is being challenged in real time. Ripple's technology sits right in that disruption zone, offering what many call the first true alternative, a bridge asset that can link banks, currencies, and blockchains together with near-instant finality. And it's not just about moving money faster, it's about control. Whoever provides the plumbing for this new digital economy will have influence over how value flows between nations, corporations, and consumers. That's why Western Union's exploration isn't just about efficiency, it's about survival. If XRP becomes the common layer connecting tokenized dollars, euros, and stablecoins from every continent, then what Ripple has built is more than a network. It's a financial nervous system, and the pieces are already on the board. Major banks, payment processors, remittance firms, and digital asset custodians all slowly converging around the same technology stack. While mainstream media debates price charts, the real transformation is technical and systemic. We're witnessing the same kind of shift that happened when email replaced fax machines. Gradual at first, then suddenly universal. So when people say this partnership doesn't matter, they're missing the pattern. Every test, every collaboration, every pilot is another domino in a sequence that leads toward one destination: the modernization of global payments. Ripple's involvement in this evolution isn't coincidence. It's design. And XRP sitting at the center of that system isn't just a cryptocurrency anymore. It's becoming the heartbeat of a multi-trillion-dollar transformation that's hiding in plain sight. Now that we've seen the foundation, partnerships, pilots, and the quiet testing of blockchain rails, let's talk about what it all means for the broader picture. Because when you start connecting dots between Ripple's acquisitions, the banks they're integrating with, and the way stablecoin infrastructure is evolving, a powerful narrative emerges. Ripple isn't just participating in the new financial system, it's architecting it. Let's start with the Medico acquisition. Back in 2023, Ripple spent nearly $250 million acquiring this European digital asset custody firm. Most people shrugged it off as just another corporate buyout, but in reality, it was a strategic chess move. Medico provides institutional-grade infrastructure, exactly what major banks, hedge funds, and asset managers need to hold and manage digital assets securely. By owning Medico, Ripple positioned itself as the gatekeeper between traditional finance and the blockchain economy. And now those same banks, Citibank, HSBC, and others are moving towards stablecoin adoption and tokenized assets. That's not luck, it's alignment. Ripple laid the tracks years ago, knowing that regulation would eventually clear the path for institutions to join the digital asset market. And now that the green lights are flashing, guess whose rails they're already standing on? Meanwhile, on the payment side, Ripple continues to evolve. Its on-demand liquidity solution, now rebranded as Ripple Payments, is live in corridors that were once controlled by SWF and other legacy intermediaries. It's already powering cross-border transfers across regions like Asia-Pacific and Latin America. And that real-world usage is what separates Ripple from 99% of crypto projects. They're not talking about future utility, they're delivering it. Here's the ripple effect. Pun intended. As these systems go live and more institutions adopt XRP for settlement or liquidity, the demand for the asset naturally increases, and yet the supply is capped. Only a fixed amount of XRP exists. That's the simple law of economics. Finite supply meets expanding utility. The result? Long-term upward pressure on value. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Tokenization. The process of turning real-world assets like real estate, stocks, and even carbon credits into digital tokens is projected to hit $16 to $30 trillion by 2030. That's not a wild crypto prediction, that's coming from global financial reports and research firms like Boston Consulting Group. And what kind of infrastructure do you need to move those tokenized assets seamlessly between markets? A fast, interoperable ledger like XRPL. That's why analysts and enthusiasts alike are calling XRP the liquidity bridge of the future. It's not about replacing currencies. It's about connecting them. And in a world where every major institution is racing to tokenize value, that bridge becomes indispensable. Still, the price of XRP today doesn't reflect that potential yet. Markets move in anticipation, and right now, the wider public is still unaware of what's being built. But just like we saw with early internet stocks in the 90s, once adoption hits a tipping point, value catches up almost overnight. So while headlines still chase hype coins and speculative pumps, Ripple is playing the long game, the infrastructure game. And if that sounds less exciting now, just remember the internet wasn't built overnight either. But those who saw the cables being laid, who understood the architecture early, became the ones who built generational wealth later. So, where does all this leave investors like us, the ones watching from the sidelines while the financial giants quietly build the future? The answer lies in understanding strategy over speculation. Too many people in crypto chase hype, jumping from one trend to another, hoping for overnight gains. But what Ripple is doing with XRP isn't about short-term price movement. It's about creating long-term structural dominance in global finance. Let's look at the bigger strategy here. Ripple isn't trying to win headlines. It's trying to win infrastructure. Think about it. When banks, governments, and corporations rely on your rails to move money, you don't just participate in the system. You become the system. Every acquisition, every partnership, every pilot project is a piece of a much larger design that connects traditional finance to blockchain through Ripple's ecosystem. This is why price action alone can be misleading. Sure, XRP might fluctuate between $2 and $3 right now, but those are just surface-level ripples, pun intended. Again, beneath that surface, the liquidity networks, regulatory alignments, and institutional integrations are forming a foundation that could support exponential growth later, and it's not just theoretical anymore. Ripple's technology is live, moving real money for real companies. Their focus on compliance, partnerships with regulated entities, and alignment with global payment standards means they're not playing in the gray zone like many other crypto projects. They're working with the financial system, not against it. Now, here's where things get personal for investors. If you're already holding XRP, you're early. Painfully early. The majority of the world doesn't even know what's being built behind the scenes. That's why I often say the 1% that understands this today will become the new financial elite tomorrow. This isn't hyperbole. It's just math and timing. Consider what happens when the US regulatory fog clears and banks are officially allowed to use crypto for settlement and liquidity. Those corridors Ripple has been quietly testing in Asia, Europe and the Middle East will open fully to American institutions, and when that happens, the velocity of capital flowing through the XRP ledger could multiply beyond anything we've seen before. But here's the key. Holding XRP isn't just about waiting for a price spike, it's about understanding utility ownership. You're holding a piece of the infrastructure that will power cross-border payments, tokenized real estate, decentralized finance, and even stable coin settlements. It's not just a token, it's an access key to the world's next financial backbone. And yes, while taking profits and diversifying are smart, the real opportunity lies in patience. Because when this infrastructure finally goes fully live, and it will, the current price levels will look like pocket change compared to what's coming. So, while most of the crypto world gets lost chasing hype and hashtags, those who understand Ripple's long-term vision know exactly what's happening here. This isn't about hype cycles or memes, it's about evolution. And we're standing right in the middle of it. At this stage, everything we've talked about starts to form a clear picture, a vision that's unfolding piece by piece right in front of us. Ripple isn't just creating a product, it's shaping the next generation of global finance. The dots all connect. The partnerships with Citibank, the acquisition of Medco, the long-running collaborations with Western Union, and the quiet regulatory groundwork being laid across continents, all of it points to one destination: mainstream integration of XRP into the world's financial plumbing. And here's the thing. While 99% of people still think crypto is just digital gambling, the 1% who actually understand how the infrastructure is evolving are positioning themselves right now. That's why I always say this: we are early, we are informed, and we are prepared. Most people won't realize what's happening until the change is already complete. By then, they'll be the ones buying in when prices have already multiplied tenfold. The irony is that Ripple's strategy has always been about quiet execution, not flashy announcements. They build partnerships while others chase publicity. They work with regulators while others fight them. They secure custody infrastructure, payment corridors, and tokenization frameworks while most investors are still waiting for the next bull run. That's why it feels like the rest of the world is asleep while this transformation is happening. Now imagine looking back a few years from now when XRP is not just another cryptocurrency on an exchange but a critical component in cross-border payments, tokenized asset settlement, and digital banking systems. At that point, you'll remember moments like this when the signs were everywhere, but few took them seriously. Of course, the goal isn't to hype numbers or promise instant riches. This isn't about price predictions. It's about perspective. Whether XRP reaches $100, $1,000, or beyond, the true value lies in what it enables. Financial sovereignty, efficiency, and inclusion, a system where money moves as easily as information does today. That's the world Ripple is helping to build. So, what do we do now? We stay patient, stay informed, and stay disciplined. We research, we learn, and we avoid falling for short-term noise. Because the real wealth isn't created when prices explode, it's created when knowledge compounds. Ripple's story isn't over, it's just getting started. Every new partnership, every regulatory development, and every technological milestone brings us closer to a fully digitized financial era. And those who have seen this vision early, those who understood what XRP really represents, will look back and realize they weren't just investors. They were pioneers. So, as always, keep your focus sharp and your conviction strong. The world may not understand it yet, but one day they will. And when that day comes, those who stayed the course will already be sitting at the table of the new financial elite. That's the opportunity. That's the moment. And it's unfolding right now.